Hey, how's everybody doing? This is Dr. Nick coming to you from the great state of Michigan. Hope everybody's doing well and hope you're all having a great day. I want to talk to you about a topic, though, that's pretty serious, and that is Asperger syndrome and bullying. I'm quite an expert at this, I have to say, having written a book about it, having experienced a lot of bullying in my youth, and having talked to countless individuals on the spectrum that have also gone through similar instances, if not worse instances than I have. And I have to say that if you haven't been bullied constantly as a youth, you just might want to think of the movie Groundhog Day. Do you remember Bill Murray in that movie? And how every day he would wake up and experience exactly the same events? In other words, he would know who he would see in the hotel. He would know who he'd see on the street corner. It was like an exact replica of the day before, but only he could create his destiny. Everybody else was going to act exactly the same as the day before. It's kind of like that with a child being bullied every day. They kind of know who they're going to run into at their locker. They know who they're going to run into at the bathroom sink or the drinking fountain near the bathroom. These kinds of things happen day in and day out. And only when we give the child with Asperger's or the child who's being bullied all the time the tools to be able to deal with it can we change their destiny. Their destiny will not necessarily be changed by changing the world, by changing the environment, although we can do our part to do that, and we certainly are trying to with bullying prevention programs and the like. But ultimately, we have to give the child with Asperger's, the vulnerable child, the child who's a little bit different, we've got to give that child the tools to be able to defend himself in a bullying situation. And we've got to make it so that school environments are very hostile to those who want to intimidate and harass other children. I think that we forget sometimes that it's a fundamental human right that children should be able to go to school and feel safe. And when we think of things like boys should be boys, and it's a natural part of growing up, and that he's got to get tough if he's going to survive in the real world, these are just fallacies. These are just myths. What we have to remember at the core is that when we send a child to school in the morning, we are doing so with the assumption that that child is going to feel safe. Because if that child doesn't feel safe, he's not going to be able to learn. I mean, that's just a basic psychological principle. If you know anything about Abraham Maslow's hierarchy of needs, safety and security is at the bottom. And if you don't get that safety and security, nothing else above it is possible. So when we send children to school in the morning, we should know that they are not going to experience bullying, whether it be from their teachers or peers. It is just unacceptable at every level, especially what we know now about the consequences of it, such as these bullycides that we see, which are suicides attributed to bullying. And quite frankly, times during middle school and high school, I thought about suicide because the thought of being dead was a lot more comforting than going to school 7 hours a day, 180 days a year, and knowing exactly what I was going to be waking up to every single day. And when we think about the child with Asperger's, he or she is a lot more vulnerable than the average child for a number of different reasons. One, they don't always know when they're going to be bullied or when they are being bullied. They can't always tell the difference between teasing, playful teasing, and sarcasm. So we've got to teach them that. That's got to go into their IEP. I know generally when we think of an IEP, we think of educational goals, academic goals. This is a social goal. Recognition of harm is essential. You can't defend yourself, folks, if you don't know you're being harmed. And a lot of times, because our children tend to be gullible and are very sensitive and see the good in others, which is very good quality, by the way, but it's not so good when you're trying to defend yourself. So we've got to be able to teach that systematically. That's got to go in the IEP, okay? Children who have Asperger's would do good signing up for martial arts classes because a lot of times their gross motor skills are far behind and they can't defend themselves physically. Think of the confidence that one can gain by knowing that you have the tools to defend yourself in a situation where you're being physically threatened, physically intimidated. All right? There are many different reasons, though, why children with Asperger's are easy targets for being bullied. I mean, think about this. 85% of communication that takes place between people, scientific studies have shown, is nonverbal. 85%. So if you're missing out on 85% of what's taking place around you, you're going to be responding in ways that other people are going to be deeming inappropriate. And so if you're responding in those ways, kids are going to pick up on that, and they're going to have a field day with it. Sensory differences is another thing. Think about what goes on during a fire drill. A fire drill is a sensory assault on a person with Asperger's. And what does the person with Asperger's sometimes do? Cover their ears and move back and forth like this, okay? That makes them look different. Anything that makes a child with Asperger's look different is going to set them up to be a target for being bullied. So what do? Well, you might tell the child with Asperger's or send a note home to his parents that there's going to be a fire drill the next day. Let him wear earplugs or remove him from the situation. All right? Anything that we can do to help a child with Asperger's not have to experience a meltdown in public is going to be doing that child a lot of good, because a meltdown is just an invitation to be bullied. It's like saying to a bully, please bully me, please bully me. It's like wearing a sign. All right? A meltdown is not necessarily a bad thing, by the way. I'm not judging a meltdown. I think sometimes meltdowns just happen. But we have to teach our kids, we have to give them the metacognitive tools to be able to know that when a meltdown is imminent, you have to go somewhere. If I know that I'm about to throw up, and this is kind of a crude analogy, but I'm not just going to do it in front of people. Not because throwing up is inherently bad. It's just kind of an embarrassing thing to do. So I've trained myself, as have we all, to go to the bathroom and do it in the toilet. Same thing is true with a meltdown. There needs to be a quiet place in the school where a child can go and feel safe when that meltdown is imminent. Doesn't mean that child can abuse that room and go there anytime throughout the course of the day all year long, but there's got to be a place, a safety place where that child can go. We've got to teach our kids, again, to be able to see a bullying situation and confront the bully and tell the bully, you know what, this is not acceptable at our school. We don't do this kind of thing. Stop it. Now you may say, well, that's pretty unrealistic. Who's going to do that? That's exactly the point. Nobody in their right mind would do that unless there's a group mindset, unless 5 or 6 students came together and said, hey, do you see what he's doing to Joe over there? Let's tell him to knock it off. This is ridiculous. All right? That's not going to happen, though, unless the educators at the top are creating that kind of atmosphere in the school. So bystanders have to have the notion that when they see injustice taking place, that they are going to confront the bully in groups, okay? Not as individuals, but in groups, because there's safety in numbers. There's not safety when you're doing it alone. Why would anybody in their right mind help out a victim as a bystander? Number one, they may worry that they're going to become the new target. And why the heck would they do that? They wouldn't. But if they could see that there is social cohesion in this, and if they did it, that they're not going to risk being ostracized, then it's a lot less risky to do this. This is just going to be my first video of probably many on Asperger syndrome and bullying. I know I've only scratched the surface when it comes to this topic, but I also want to say that I've written a book about this where I go into a lot more detail than I've gone into in this video, so please look it up on Amazon if you have a moment. I also speak about this quite often. I can give 6-hour seminars, or I could give an hour-and-a-half presentation. I can tailor it to your group or organization, but this is kind of a preview of what you would expect at me giving a presentation. And I'm so passionate about this, I hope that comes across. I will do anything basically to ensure that the children who are growing up today don't have to experience what I and my fellow classmates went through when we were children. So I thank you for watching this video, and look forward to sharing some more time with you in the future. Thank you.